to this?
Absolutely none.
None.
Absolutely
None,
not,
says
Skip.
Shannon Sharpe.
Because I believe Zeke opens everything up, Skip. He's the drink. Now, if you want to say Dak is what stirs it, okay, fine, have at it. But he's the actual drink itself. You see, Skip, the problem that I have is that how you take one isolated situation. You talk, C.J. Anderson. Okay, C.J. had a couple of good games. But the difference is it's kind of like
he had 3 good games. Be careful because you left off the game.
No, Skip.
Right?
I was in a very similar situation.
Yeah.
Because when we were the Broncos, come in after TD got hurt, and you had Mike Anderson go for $1,500. You had Clinton Porter go for $1,500.
Okay, but those are quality backs behind a really good offensive line and a great system.
But they couldn't run us to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
There, that's the difference. That guy can run you to the Super Bowl. Mike Pollard and whomever they drafted, Skip, and
Tony
Pollard.
Yeah,
Excuse me. And they got the guy Alfred Morris. They signed him from well, he was a free agent. He was there a couple of years ago, and so when Zeke was suspended, he filled in quite nicely. But Skip, he's not Zeke. Zeke commands. You go into a game, Skip. I'm almost 100% for certain that when defenses face the Dallas Cowboys, the defensive coordinator goes up there on a Wednesday and he says, "Guys, we're taking Zeke Elliott out of the ball game." That's their great game plan, and that's a lot easier said than done because Zeke, because they have 3 first-round offensive linemen. They have a dominant offensive line. Their intent is to run the football. And then everything after that comes off the run. They play action you. They can run the zone read. They can boot. They can do all of those things, Skip. And I'm not trying to minimize Dak. I'm not trying to minimize Amari. But if you think for 1 second that Zeke Elliott is not the engine that runs this Cowboys offense, you're sadly mistaken. And everything they've done is they built it around him. So now you're trying to devalue him because you don't want to pay him the money that he deserves. And he knows it, Skip. He's in the worst situation because Dak, Skip, is in the last year of his deal. Amari is on his option year, but he's making $14 million.
Yep.
Zeke knows now this is as good a chance, or this is his best chance, in order for him to get the contract extension that he feels he deserves because he knows he has an option year next year. And if the Cowboys, if they so choose, 2, not 1, but 2 franchise tags. Skip, points do come out of the passing game, but if you cannot control the football, it doesn't do you any good. Ezekiel Elliott is number 1. Amari Cooper is number 2. Dak Prescott's number 3.
Shannon Sharpe.
Yes, sir.
You are living in the past, in your Denver past, back in the days when you could run your way to a Super Bowl championship. That was 1998.
7 and 8.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, 7 and 8. Last time was 1998. And then rules started changing and game really changed because it became more and more of a passing league because it's like chicks dig the long ball in baseball. They dig the long pass in football, right?
Pass, huh?
Okay. So I'm going to say this one more time and to answer your question. There is nothing but truth in what both Bill Barnwell and Todd Archer wrote on ESPN.com about Amari being more valuable to Dak than Zeke is valuable to Dak. I'm going to state my opinion one more time. I still believe Ezekiel Elliott is the best back in football. You and I have argued about that, and I've always been pro-Zeke.
True.
The problem is he doesn't play quarterback. And in this day and age, the quarterback is more valuable, especially when the quarterback is the most underrated clutch closer in football. And I'm going to detail that in just a moment. But he's obviously the leader of this football team. I think Dak Prescott is turning into one of the best leaders in all of football. And in the end, we have to start with the premise that you tried to defeat, which is the Rams gave Todd Gurley way too much money. They dramatically overpaid, and the Cowboys are now having to pay for that because Todd Gurley got, as you know, 4 years, $57.5 million. 45 of that is guaranteed, and 14.4 is the average per year. That is too much, overvaluing a running back position that most people devalue.
Okay.
So the classic happened. C.J. Anderson, I love C.J. We had him on the show. Good guy. Once a Denver Bronco. He's had a history of running over my Dallas Cowboys. But he tried to run over the Cowboys in the opener for the Carolina Panthers, and he went 7 carries for 35 yards. Not bad, but not great.
Right.
And Carolina was not impressed, and he lasted 9 games for Carolina, and they cut him.
Yes.
And then he sat for a while, and finally, the Oakland Raiders, we saw last night on Hard Knocks, they said, we'll take a shot. And I don't know what didn't happen, but he lasted 6 days, and they cut him. And he went back on his couch for a whole nother week until we get to December 18th, and the Rams, desperate because Todd Gurley, to whom they had given a fortune, started to have creaky knees. I'm not sure how bad they were, if it's arthritic or if he actually tore something. He had a little meniscus tear. I don't know. But he didn't look like himself to the point they needed insurance. So they go pluck a running back off the couch. And let me ask you a question. Could you do that with a quarterback? Could you go get a quarterback on the couch, some backup quarterback, some failed quarterback, and plug him in and have him light it up? It just can't happen. The position's too hard to play.
But Skip, we say this all the time, that the running back is the easiest position to transfer.
Thank you.
Okay. So that doesn't...
I'm not saying they're a dime a dozen, but again, quarterbacks are definitely not a dime a dozen. Sometimes you could plug in a running back, and so they go to Arizona and plug him in. He goes for 167 yards.
Arizona's terrible. You're right, quarterbacks are not a dime a dozen because you don't even have one in that dozen. You don't even have a dozen quarterback.
You're going to eat these.
You don't have a dozen
I'm going to make you eat them right now because then we know what happens the next week. The 49ers, they're not very good either, but he goes for 132. But my Dallas Cowboys had just shut down the #1 running attack in pro football in the first playoff game they played, Seattle's. And what happened? CJ'd all over them, right? He ran them off the field. Jenny went to the game, but I'm going to let her off the hook for that.
I'm never going to get over that. Boy.
Okay, but he went for 123 against my Cowboys.
What did Todd Gurley go for?
He got a few, but 78 were from CJ in the first half, and that was a problem because that dug a hole too deep for Dak Prescott. Okay, so now let's go back to what happened when Amari came, because what were the Cowboys? I'm not going to count the first game that Amari played because it was Tennessee, and he hadn't even practiced with the team. He just got thrown into the game. So give me a break on that one. I'm going to X that one out because that was a debacle.
Okay? No breaks.
That night, my team fell to 3-5. Help me out. Was Ezekiel Elliott healthy and happy for the first 8 games of the year?
Yes.
They fell to 3-5 with Zeke.
Well, who was the quarterback?
Why was that? Who were the receivers? Help me out. Who got the most targets in the first 5 games? Interesting. Would you believe Ezekiel Elliott was the #1 target? He and Cole Beasley alternated for the most targets in those first games. So what does that tell you? He did not have a #1 receiver. No quarterback can flourish without a #1 except for Tom Brady. I was going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. But what happened when Tom Brady got Randy Moss for 2007? Records happened. Am I right about that?
True.
So this was his Randy Moss. And I'm not saying Amari's Randy Moss.
And are you saying he's not Tom Brady?
Okay, he is not. But he is definitely Brady-esque.
No,
because
he's not.
all the big games, all the key victories last year came because Dak Prescott took over fourth quarter after fourth quarter. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 games where he took over fourth quarter. It's why he has led the NFL in game-winning drives over the last 3 years. He did it.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your sheet over there. It says in the first 3 quarters, he did diddly poo, squat, nothing.
Who won the game? This sounds Brady-esque to me.
I'm just saying.
Does this not sound Brady-esque? Does this not sound Super Bowl-esque?
Skip. You don't get
Interesting.
to lock me out of the house
I'm still
and then
talking.
call.
I'm still talking. It's my turn to talk because my team down the stretch went 7-1.
Okay.
And my quarterback didn't turn into just a pretty good quarterback. He turned into a top 5 quarterback, and the statistics scream top 5. He was 4th in yards in the NFL over the last 8 games. He was 3rd in completions. Is that good? That's pretty great. And he was 5th in distance. It's called air distance. It's length of pass.
Yeah.
So you keep saying Dink and Dak, right?
Yeah.
But he was 5th in the league in how far the passes traveled. What does that tell you? It tells you he was a top 5 quarterback. So let's go look back at what started happening from the start. The opener at Carolina. The leading target receiver was Cole Beasley. He is no longer a Dallas Cowboy because they found him expendable. They just said, if Buffalo wants to pay him that much, just let him go. We'll add Randall Cobb, and we will upgrade at that position. He was your number one receiver, and guess who was second in targets in the opener? Deontay Thompson, wherever he's with the Jets now. They cut him after 9 games last year because he just couldn't carry that load. He's not a number 2 receiver.
You had him hyped up, though.
Okay, well, it's all I had. They tried to do it by committee, and it did not work. And then what happened at Seattle? They tried to feature Zeke at Seattle. He drops a huge early third down pass that he could still be running with, and then he fumbled late and killed their rally. There were 2 Dak interceptions in that game, both of them tipped by where Cowboys got their hands on the football and it tipped up in the air. And guess who was Johnny on the spot? Earl Thomas was right there to get the little deflection, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they had a chance to win that game, but Zeke didn't come up big in that game. Detroit, what was the key play late? It was a long pass, 34 yards from Dak to Zeke. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Zeke became their leading receiver because they didn't have one. What team can go to the Super Bowl with their back as the leading receiver?
You're making my point.
No, you're making mine. It's over, Shannon. That's all he had. He has to throw to his running back in a clutch situation with the game on the line. Why don't you run a wheel route, and I'm going to hit you for 34.
So
wow.
Now you're making my point. Because not only can Zeke run you to the championship, now he's catching the ball.
You're going nowhere fast when your running back is your number one receiver.
But,
sorry.
But you keep telling me how Amari Cooper, how Dak picked up once Amari got there. But who led the league in rushing the last 8 games of the season? Can you tell me who that is?
Okay, but you don't think Dak was just lighting it up with his arm? That's why they won the games. It's a passing league.
That's my point, Skip. No, my point is the big plays come out of play action. Because now what can you do?
Big plays come from the number one who can't be covered by 2 people. That's what happens.
You know why? Because the safety is down in the box and you're getting single high safety. That's how it gets done. Skip, let me ask you a question. If I gave you a choice of Amari Cooper and the top 8 receivers, who you taking?
Say that again.
If I give you the top 8 receivers, if I give you Julio, AB, D-Hop.
Okay, it's all about connection with quarterback. It's all about wavelength. That's why I keep telling you, Julian Edelman is a top 5 receiver because of his connection with his quarterback. Amari is a top 5 receiver to me because of his connection with Dak Prescott.
Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, Skip, if I were to agree with you, which I don't, why in the hell haven't the Cowboys given Dak that contract that if he's the guy, if he's everything that you said he is, why haven't they given him the money?
They will. Just wait and watch. This is called negotiations. They have an embarrassment of riches. They have all 3 superstars, and right behind them, a couple of more potential superstars coming of age and of contract. Want to bet they get them done? Want to bet?
Skip.
We haven't even played 1 preseason game yet.
You don't need
this. Takes time.
If he's the
it's
guy,
patience.
Skip, if he's the.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.